Amen. First and foremost, I'm going to say all honor and praises be to Yahweh, Bashim El Shai. Double honors unto the apostles of GMS. Shalom to all the sincere Akim out there teaching out there in highways and byways in truth and sincerity. And hopefully, this video is edifying. I want to do a quick one on who the Greek spoken about in the book of John 12 and 20 is speaking about. So I'm going to read the scripture first in John 12 and 20, and it says, "And there were certain Greeks among them that came to worship at the feast." Now, I'm going to read it again, John 12 and 20, "And there were certain Greeks among them that came up to worship at the feast." So now, if you go into the Blue Letter Bible, which the apostles always say that the Blue Letter Bible, has some bones in there. Now, if you go into the word, it says, read it here. It says, a Gentile. It says, especially, it says a Greek. It says a Greek, but by the nationality, whether a native or mainland of the Greek islands or colonies. And it says, in a wider sense, it's the name embraces all the nations, not Jews that made the language, custom, and learning of Greeks their own. So basically saying, so this Greek here is applying to everyone else, but just specifically not Jews, Jews that made Greek their language, their customs, and joined themselves to the learning of the Greeks their own. The primary references are different of religion and worship. So basically, if you read here in the blue letter, it's saying that it's anything else. It could be any heathen, it could be an Elamite, it could be anyone, but it's just definitely not an Israelite who became into the ways of heathens and spoke Greek. Well, that's a lie, because we're going to go into scriptures and we're going to carefully analyze the scripture again. So let's go back to John 12 and 20. So it says, "And there were certain Greeks among them that came to worship at the feast." So now let's go into the word worship here, right? I just, through the Spirit, I just say, I know the Spirit's on me saying this is going to the word worship, right? Now, what I'm going to do through the Spirit is go into the word feast and worship. I didn't plan this at all. This is just the Spirit. I don't know why. I might see something there that's, spiritual. So this is to worship, to kiss the hand towards one in token of reverence. Among the relations, the Persians fall upon the knees, it's on the forehead. Needing them homage to make the same, whatever. Use of homage shown to men as superior rank. Okay, to Jewish high priest, to God, to Christ, heavenly things. Okay, now if you go there, it says probable derivative. Okay, to do reverence to adore, to worship. So it just means to worship. Now let's go into the word feast. And we're going to read up in the scripture to see what feast is talking about. And how we definitely know that these Greeks here that's talking about in John 12 and 20 is just Jews who made Greek their tongue. The reason why, so really it would be a Grecian, because it wasn't really until Acts with Cornelius that the word started getting preached to the Israelites who just didn't know who they were but came back to the faith. So here it would have to be Jews who made Greek their tongue, meaning people who knew they were Israelites but were just but just made Greek their tongue. So let's go into the word feast, right? Let's go into the word feast and let's see what the word feast means. Then we're gonna get the understanding of what actual feast is talking about here. Which if you've read John 12, you will know what he's talking about. So this is the book of John 12. It says a feast day, a festival, right? Affinity, a feast, holy day. So when you see the word holy day, you're like, oh shit, okay, it's a ring bell, right? So let's go back to John. I'm going a bit too fast, the Spirit, I got a speech impediment, but the Spirit has where it's not even coming right now. So let's now go up further to see what feast is talking about. But I'm going to read John 12 and 20 again. I'm going to take my time actually. So this is John 12 and 20 again. It says here, I'm going to read it again. I'll say it, time, you can't do that, man. it says John 12:20, and there were certain Greeks among them that came to worship at the feast. And let's see what feast is talking about. So let's go to 1. Then Yahushua 6 days before the Passover came to Bethany, where Lazarus, which had been dead, whom he raised from the dead. So basically, the feast that is referring to here is the Passover, right? So the feast, so we get understanding that in John 12:20, it says, what? And there were certain Greeks among them that came to worship at the feast. So now here's how we know that it's talking about basically Jews who made Greek their tongue. Basically, they weren't actually Greeks, they were men of Israel who made Greek their tongue. It says, then Yahushua came 6 days before the Passover. So the feast that the Greeks here came to worship at was the Passover, right? So the feast that the Greeks here came to worship at was the Passover. Again, the Greeks here is Jews who make Greek their tongue. And here's how we're going to prove it also in the scripture, because this is Deuteronomy 16:16. It says, 3 times in a year shall all thy males, right? Let's read what males this is 2. This is Deuteronomy 16:1. This is 2. This is 16:2. And it says actually, I'm gonna pause 1 second. So going back to Deuteronomy 16:6, 16:16, and it says 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord thy God in the place where he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, which was the first. Basically, you have the Passover, then you have the feast of unleavened bread, which is basically, the Passover is basically like you have the Passover, then you have 7 days of unleavened bread, which is basically the same thing. In the Feast of Weeks and in the Feast of Tabernacles, and they shall appear before they shall not appear before the Lord empty. So as you saw, you have the Passover, then you have the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which you have the Passover, which is the 14th day at sundown to the 15th day, and I believe the 15th day at sundown to the 21st day, where it's the Feast of Weeks, the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Now the scripture says that no heathen is to eat of the Passover, which after the Passover you have the unleavened Feast of Unleavened Bread, which in order to even keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread, you obviously have to take part in the Passover, right? But this is what it says in Exodus 12:45. It says, a foreigner and an hired servant shall not eat thereof. Actually, I'm reading Exodus 12:43, and it says, and the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. So no stranger can really take part in the feast. So in John 12:20, when it says and you had Greeks who came to worship at the feast, right? How can that be talking about actual heathen, which the scripture says here that no stranger shall eat thereof, and the stranger here in this actual verse talking about heathen, man. So the scripture says in John 12:20 that you had Greeks who came to worship at the feast, right? This is John 12:20 again. It says, John 12:20, and there were certain Greeks among them that came to worship at the feast. And we know that feast is the Passover. You have the Passover for the 14th day at sundown to the 15th day, and then the 15th day onwards to the 21st day is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Now, in order to take part in the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is practically the same thing, because you have the Passover and unleavened bread. It's basically the same feast, same everything, same feast. the Passover, then you have unleavened bread. So the point is that in order to take part in the unleavened bread, you obviously need to take part in the Passover. And the reason why they came to Jerusalem to worship at the feast is because Deuteronomy 16:16. This is one of the feasts 3 times a year that they had to come to Jerusalem to, and it says, 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before thy Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty. So that's why they came. The Greeks, Jews who made Greek their tongue, came to Jerusalem to keep the feast because they were Israelites, and because this is one of the 3 times a year they had to come to worship at the feast. And the feast is the Passover, and the scripture says in Exodus that no stranger can even eat of it. So now I'm going to read this and I'm going to close it out, and Lord willing, it was edifying. This is Exodus 24:43. And the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover, there shall no stranger eat thereof. Stranger here is actual heathen, right? And it says, but every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then he shall. And here, this is the blind to Hebrew servants, because no heathen, so no stranger shall eat thereof. A foreigner and an hired servant shall not eat thereof. That's right, a foreigner and a hired servant being an actual slave. But in verse 44, the ones who can eat of it is an Israelite. In one house shall it be eaten, thou shalt not carry forth of the flesh and blood of the house, neither shall you break the bone thereof. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. So only the Israelites are the ones to keep it, man. You know, and it says, and when a stranger, so now people get it twisted, but this stranger in this verse is talking about an Israelite who doesn't live in the land of Israel. And it says, and when a stranger, so which though the Spirit of the Lord has something I need to understand it, because this is a breakdown from the apostles, which is right, the Spirit and power how GMSPushOn. And when a stranger, so the stranger here is talking about an Israelite who's born in the land of Israel, shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord. Let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near to keep it. And he shall be as one born in the land. As one what? As one Israelite born in the land. So that's how you know that the stranger here is talking about an Israelite, but the stranger in verse 43 is talking about the heathen. For no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. And it says, one law shall be to him. Who? The law is only given unto who? The Israelites. Psalm 147 says that, right? The one law shall be to him that is homeboard, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. The stranger that sojourneth among you, who is allowed to keep the Passover, in this verse is an Israelite who wasn't born in the land of Israel. He doesn't live in the land of Israel, but because this is one of the 3 times a year he has to appear before the Lord, he comes to keep the Passover in the land of Israel. So, Lord willing, this was edifying. Again, to restate the point, John 12:20, and it says, and there were certain Greeks among them that came to worship at the feast. The Greeks here are Jews who made Greek their tongue, but they knew who they actually was as Israelites, because it wasn't until Acts 10 when the Israelite foreigners, Jacob just didn't even know they were Israelites, came to the faith. So Lord willing, that was edifying. If you've got any questions, but be sure. If you've got any scriptures in the comment, if you've got any scriptures that you want to add it as well to post, that would be beautiful, man. Lord willing, to edify. Shalom.